Everyone knows, HDL is a good cholesterol. But the jury is still out on whether LDL is a bad or good cholesterol. If you stick with me to the end, you will receive a little bonus that a lot of people is wondering about. I think it will benefit you. Sadly, many average doctors may not have good conceptual understanding of what cholesterol is, other than knowing there are such thing called good and bad cholesterol, and perhaps lipoproteins. What you need to understand is that cholesterol is not just essential, but also vital for life. Without cholesterol, any living cell will die. Cholesterol is the building block of a cell, and it also makes up a single-cell organism. It's an essence of life, or if you like, a symbol of life. 75% of our body's cholesterol is made by our body. 30% of our cell membranes are packed with cholesterol. It forms the basis of sex hormones, bile salt, and vitamin D. As you may be aware that, vitamin D plays a vital role not just in bone and muscle health, it's also part of the human's immune defense system. Adequate sun exposure helps our body to synthesize vitamin D, but nobody tells us that vitamin D can't be made without cholesterol as a raw ingredient, in spite of adequate sun exposure. Without cholesterol, human will not exist. In other words, we would die without cholesterol. Paradoxically, a high saturated fat diet, with raised cholesterol, does not necessarily mean the person has bad health. Wait a minute, have you ever checked your LDL cholesterol against the laboratory reference range? Obviously, any figure falling outside this reference range will automatically be taken as abnormal and treated as bad for health. Undeniably, LDL is widely accepted as bad cholesterol for decades. This pejorative nature of the term means public's fear of falling of the perch due to elevated LDL is understandable, and undoubtedly. You may probably recall that elevated LDL is often accompanied by raised total cholesterol. Now, even if you gain trust on high cholesterol being medically healthy, knowing that cholesterol is essential for life, you may question yourself, is it really medically also safe to have high LDL? Do stay tuned to understand the critical point of high LDL and its health impact. Well, it turns out that high circulating LDL could be something that to celebrate, rather than to mourn. Before you could agree if LDL and cholesterol are bad or good guys, you need to understand that cholesterol is not LDL, or vice versa. Undoubtedly, there are many people out there who see LDL as a bad guy. Certainly, you are being told so by your doctors. Many people confuse LDL as cholesterol, or see cholesterol as LDL, much like treating horse float for horse and cargos for trucks. The LDL, which is often incorrectly treated as cholesterol, has a more appropriate name, called lipoprotein. LDL, as well as HDL, and chylomicron, are in fact, carriers, or dump trucks if this is a better way to imagine. The cholesterol, on its own, is much like dirt, or goods, sitting inside the dump truck, and being carried from point A to point B, through circulation, for offload. Like cholesterol, triglycerides are dirt, or cargo too. Why do you think cholesterol and triglycerides need carriers like lipoproteins to circulate in the body? Simple, both are not water soluble, they can't move around without dump trucks, like lipoproteins. Just look at what happened when you mix the fat with water. Without adequate lipoproteins to carry water insoluble fat, the fat that we consume may kill us by lethal mechanism called fat embolism. These lipoproteins, or dump trucks, if you like to call it that way, are subdivided into different densities and sizes depending on two major factors, namely, on-load or offload status, as well as healthy or damaged status. Offload lipoproteins appear smaller compared to on-load lipoprotein, much like offload dump trucks are lighter than on-load trucks. Medically, these trucks are named very low-density lipoprotein, intermediate-density lipoprotein, and low-density lipoprotein. All of them are essentially the same particle, or same carrier, with the VLDL being the largest in size among the three, and gets smaller, after denoting cargo, to form LDL, the smallest, but denser. Unfortunately, testing of LDL particle size cannot be achieved via traditional lipid testing. The typical particle size result, by electrophoresis, may be presented in this way. Now, shall we get back to the question? Is high LDL, and associated high cholesterol, bad, or good for health? Worldwide demographic data, surprisingly demonstrated, lower death, in cohort with higher blood cholesterol, in terms of cardiovascular mortality, pneumonia, and cancer death. In science, there is several different tiers of medical evidence, of which meta-analysis, or systemic review, is at the top tier of medical evidence, meaning most powerful and convincing hierarchy. The recent 2016 meta-analysis, published in BMJ, looked at chances of dying, or all-cause mortality, in the presence of high LDL. In 19 studies, 16 of 19 studies supported higher LDL makes one lives longer. Cochrane Database Systemic Review, in 2011, cited that there is no clinical evidence that dietary saturated fat has negative impact on heart and blood vessel health. Data published in British Medical Journal, year 2015, and 2016, claimed saturated fats are not linked to cardiovascular diseases and diabetes risk, whereas there was a 22% higher death risk for each 0.78 millimoles per liter reduction in cholesterol level, respectively. So, the science seems to tell us that the lower the LDL, the shorter the lifespan. Paradoxically, this does not seem to support the idea of lowering death rate by way of anti-cholesterol medication. If that data does not convince you, then why not check this one out? The Women's Health Initiative Randomized Controlled Trial Study, 2006, on low-fat diet and cardiovascular disease. This study ran for 8 years, with 50,000 postmenopausal female cohort. Ironically, this article, available via PubMed, OpenHeart in 2021, and BMJ, reported higher death rates from heart attack, seen in females with a background of cardiovascular risk, when randomized to go for a low-fat diet. On the flip side, the group given higher dietary fat did way better. The increase in heart attack rate was by 26% in the lower fat group, and was statistically significant. Historically, LDL is blamed as bad cholesterol, though technically, LDL is not cholesterol. Now, if these meta-analysis does not make you suspicious of the theory behind LDL being a bad guy, then what this could really mean to you. Nevertheless, we do know that LDL does end up lining on the blood vessels. Does this mean LDL cause blood vessel disease in organs like the heart and brain? Here is the answer. In fact, none of these LDL carriers are medically deleterious unless they are damaged in some way in the circulation. In other words, LDL, by nature, is a good guy unless it turns bad when mixing with the wrong guys. Apparently, these wrong guys are sugar, or, more specifically, the glucose. Glycation is the process by which LDL get damaged after prolonged high sugar exposure. More specifically, the damage occurs to lipoprotein, called ApoB100, a docking signal that communicates with liver cells to allow lipoprotein uptake by liver. The damaged LDL is prone to oxidative damage, leading to fractionally small, denser LDL. Now, just look at the healthy LDL pattern A, and compare to unhealthy pattern B, only available via a special lipid particle size test. The sugar, not the saturated fat, is the culprit to the damaged small, denser LDL, leading to blood vessel diseases like coronary artery disease. Insulin resistance is the big thing, responsible for elevated serum glucose. Healthy undamaged LDL particles, in fact, do more good than harm to humans' health. It's known that large quantity of healthy LDL, in fact, promotes longer lifespan by strengthening immune response, removing inflammatory damage, stimulating cell repair, destroying cancer cells, making and supplying CoQ10 to body muscles, maintaining integrity of brain function, to prevent dementia, and last but not least, sex hormones production, which makes ladies look pretty, and men look handsome. For those who may not know, CoQ10 functions much like spark plug, helping to initiate muscle to burn fuel. It's essential for heart muscles to function efficiently. How on earth can LDL do such wonders to humans' body health? It turns out that LDL, as a carrier, not just delivers cholesterol, also carries fat-soluble vitamins and antioxidants. LDL fights infection by neutralizing bacterial toxins. Interestingly, egg yolks and fresh cream used to be a remedy for infections like tuberculosis, before the era of antibiotics. Clearly, most people agree that whole animal diet is generally linked to higher LDL. As cited early, LDL seems to associate with lower death rate in meta-analysis studies. This could literally explain why whole food meat diet with low carbs give a bunch of healthy undamaged LDL, supporting essential healthy metabolic processes in humans' body. In conclusion, metabolically unhealthy people could have run into troubles of having unhealthy LDL in the circulation. On the other hand, a high level of undamaged LDL in metabolically healthy people confers tremendous health benefits. To understand better the concept of so-called metabolic health, please be sure to hit the notification bell for more upcoming videos. Take-home message: high saturated fat makes your good cholesterol goes up, but end of the day, it's the sugar that makes your cholesterol turns bad. Okay. Hope you have learned something new today. Until then, see you.